where do you see Round 21, as a company, in the near future?
In the near future, we're starting a Kickstarter. So I don't know if you guys know what a Kickstarter is, but basically we're mobilizing people who care about art and sport to say this brand needs to have a role in the world. And so Kickstarter, if you search Round 21, you would see the ability to support what we're trying to build. So everything in the next 4 weeks is focused on Round 21's Kickstarter. Midterm and long term, though, what I hope for the brand is that, call it 3 years or so, it will feel odd and awkward to play with something so meaningful to you in sport that doesn't say something about you. Almost like your sneakers, your hood, like you know when you put it on, it's saying something about your mood that day,
exactly.
who you hang out with, what you believe in. I want to be the brand that creates the norm, is that my sports equipment says something about me.
What's up, guys? We're back with another episode with the amateurs. Today we have a very, very special guest with us today. I had the privilege of interning under Jasmine, this summer with Round 21. She's doing a lot of big things, collabing with the NBA and, just doing big things with Round 21. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you for coming on. Definitely. You have a dope, setup back there. We'll get into it a little bit later, as to what Round 21 is and what you have going on with that. But what else have you been up to lately outside of Round 21? We're in a pandemic and everything, but what else have you been up to?
Well, I think this phase, the last 6 months, has really been about things that are close to me being most important, honestly. So whether that's family or starting a new business or paying attention to my health or passions like sports or art or being outdoors, really just the things that mean the most. I think without all the distractions of, what life could be, going to this event or meeting up with friends for dinner, it really brings me back to kind of the basics.
Definitely. I think that's one thing that I've realized as well, just trying to focus more on what I'm thankful for and trying to show gratitude. And it's honestly worked for me. We're still in the pandemic, but I don't feel the effects as much as I did before.
Right.
Definitely. But we have a segment on our show now called the 1 minute warm up.
Yeah.
So I have about 10 to 11 questions I'm going to ask you. You have a minute to answer them, and you get one skip.
Okay.
All right, ready?
Ready.
All right, here we go. Favorite movie?
There's Something About Mary.
Favorite sports team?
Celtics.
Career high in points, either in college or pro?
Meeting the Rock.
Ooh. Sport that you're least talented in?
Hockey.
Favorite athlete of all time?
Michael Jordan.
Yes.
Favorite sneaker that you own?
Okay, so this is going to sound a little odd, but Under Armour made a shoe inspired by Star Wars that never made it to market, but I have a pair, and so those are special to me.
Nice. Best piece of advice that you've ever received?
If you don't have a plan, go for it anyway.
I like that. Greatest role model?
My niece who has special needs.
Favorite artist?
What kind? Music, visual? Got to be specific. I'm about art and sport.
Music.
Music? Jay-Z.
I like that. And what was your dream school growing up?
Dream school? UNC. It's kind of cliche.
Nice.
Nice.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
I like the Jay-Z. That's Jan and I's guy.
It was not only obvious, but when I started thinking about all the way he's creative and an artist, it's kind of like top of the list all the way.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's kind of crazy you said that. This whole summer, I had, the chance to intern under you, and I did not know that, that's but no, let's get into it. So who put the ball in your hands, and where did your love for the game come from?
I'm very lucky to have been raised around all boys, brother, cousins. And so I think my brother did. He's five years older than me, but we had cousins that were also 5 years older than me. And then my other cousin was my age. So it was always 2-on-2 where the two older brothers played the two of us. And I always wanted to kind of fit in and hang out and be around them. And they were always playing basketball. And so it kind of came with the territory.
Gotcha. So, okay. So what was your favorite sports memory, as an amateur athlete?
Well, there are all those game-winning shots. No, I think it was just one big memory of the moments when we actually weren't on the court. Back when I played, traveling to an away game, getting ready, the butterflies. I think the national anthem, swaying back and forth, getting ready for tip-off. You can't really replicate that.
Right.
Side of sports, we think we can with like big presentations or getting ready for a pod. It's not the same.
It's not the same.
Yeah, that's true.
I definitely missed the whole routine, especially this past season, because I really did put together my own routine during the national anthem right before tip-off. And I still, because I was so used to like visualizing that before, like the night before a game, I still do that sometimes. I'm like, man, why are you still you're not an athlete anymore?
But hey, you're always an athlete. It's in here.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Don't say that.
Gotcha. And you played overseas professionally for a while as well. What was that like?
So I had very few choices of where I was going to go play overseas. I got two options, Denmark or Spain, very different cultures. And I, took Spain because new language, new food. Europe is such a draw, I think, for being able to explore within the region. And so not any of it was motivated by what team or the talent. It was all about the experience. And I think I'm glad to have had people around me who navigated my decision based on the broader experience. And it was all the good and not some of the good. You 3 practices a day, same people every day, 1 day off a week. It's really kind of I say that with all the affection and passion I have for like the opportunity, but it was a 1-year thing. I'm so glad I did it, but I really do think about the athletes who go overseas and play like 12 years in Russia. They're working hard for that opportunity.
Definitely.
Wow.
Definitely.
That's Bryce. We've had some professional basketball players on as well. So I think that's great to, hear the other side of, athletes being able to share that experience, come back and then be able to still stay around sports like such as yourself. So
exactly. And that's kind of where I wanted to go next. You were able to successfully transition from playing professionally into a career in sports. How did you do that?
I knew who I was early in my kind of journey, which was a positive and a negative. It's great to know kind of who you are, meaning what gets you excited, what motivates you. And that was always around the locker room or athletic achievement or the sports culture or even culture of sports from a business perspective. So I knew that was going to be like a North Star for where I went. But I didn't have the confidence or the knowledge of how to do anything but play, really. So my bridge was coaching. And while I was doing it, I wasn't aware that it was a bridge, but I'm proud to say I was aware that it was just a moment. I never thought I was going to be a coach for like 20, 30 years, but I did know that it was going to be valuable to me to whatever I wanted to do next. And so coaching for me manifested as an on-court basketball coach, but then it also came to life as a strength and conditioning coach. And so that gave me a lot of flexibility. And it was a matter of time as to what I would do next, but I needed that bridge, kind of like a gap year a lot of people take. I needed to kind of see what it was like, not just playing anymore before I went into a more structured environment.
Okay. Right. So, okay. So we fast forward into you coaching now, right? Okay, so after coaching, you go into the sports industry, right? Okay, so can you tell us, what the first opportunity was like, being able to make that transition in the sports, world?
Yeah, I would start by saying there's actually opportunities every day to show potential. So I don't know if your listeners understand really what I'm saying, without articulating a little bit more, but whether it's even this great platform you guys have created, you're making value, you're creating value. So when I coached, recruiting was something I thought was a marketing opportunity. I'm like, recruiting is telling a potential student athlete what's better about your program than the, school around the corner, what's better about the school and maybe the city. And I knew that was marketing. So I tried to find ways to separate myself, creating visual collateral pamphlets. Back then, even the way you would structure an email is all now kind of what you expect in corporate marketing roles.
Right.
So my bridge from playing to my first job, which was at Reebok, was coaching, but I knew I was creating sound bites and signals of why I would be a great fit for a company like Reebok, which is I've been with the consumer that you're trying to connect with for the past 10 years. I know what sneakers they like. I know what they're drinking. I know how they think about brands. Let me come be the voice of the consumer in this organization. And so that was how I kind of leveraged my coaching.
Oh, wow.
And I love that for one main reason. We try to push the idea that, us as athletes, like you said, we know what athletes like. We know what these companies, what their consumers like. We are their consumers, and we spend our entire lives around them. So we have an advantage. We have an advantage that we can, use to help these companies out. So I just try to tell, other student athletes because so many athletes think it's either I play this sport professionally or that's it. But you can work for Reebok, you can work for Adidas, Under Armour, all these other companies, and still be successful and enjoy your job. So I love that. But so many of us, we dream of working in the sports industry. I know for myself and Jaren, we can imagine, that point when we finally get there, we have our full-time opportunity. Super exciting. But I'm interested in knowing what that was like for you, where you were like, whether it was a project you were working on or an event that you were at, and you were like, man, like I'm really getting paid to do this.
Right.
That actually happened later. When I realized that I can't believe someone's paying me to do this was working on the NFL Combine at Under Armour. I actually came home and told my husband that. So that's a real soundbite. At Reebok, I think my learning curve was really steep. I'd never tucked my shirt in. I was 28 when I joined Reebok. I'd never worn anything but sweatpants and a whistle around my neck. So for me, I went in too insecure, trying to find all the answers, thinking I should know this. And what I realized about 6 weeks in was I have to start asking for help. And people wanted to help. And it wasn't that I needed to know everything. I kind of felt like I was still interviewing for the job in my first few. And once that kind of weight was lifted, then it was a lot of fun. My first job, the biggest memory was trying to figure out what are Adidas and Reebok both going to stand for now that they were under the same brand and trying to go up against Nike, and having a sense of what both brands' heritage represented and how that was going to play out in the marketplace. It was just such an incredible thing to witness, less about me adding value or some milestone, but to be able to have been a part of witnessing how that all played out was really, really valuable to me.
Yeah, it's crazy. Were you at Reebok around the same time as Allen Iverson?
I was.
Yeah. That's dope.
I think if you asked Alan, were you there when he might say this? No. I never worked with him or met him, actually.
And that's crazy because I kind of remember us talking about that, Jasmine, our first meeting, I think we had, getting acquainted and everything. But I was telling Bryce that I don't remember if she worked with Allen Iverson or not, but
I worked at Reebok while he was there. I did not work with him.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
no. Yeah.
Makes sense. Right. So, being an athlete now, you've played overseas, you're in the sports industry and everything. What is the biggest piece of advice, you have for the student athletes that are trying to leverage, their experience as being, a student athlete while in college? So
I'm sure that a lot of student athletes have friends who feel like they know exactly what they want to do with their life. And that pressure can feel a little bit overwhelming if you have friends who I'm going to go to med school or I'm going to be a consultant. And so the first bit of advice I would try to provide somebody who was more like me, which was, I don't know where I want to go, but I have the courage to explore is to think about where they want to explore and shift the narrative with people who may be being like, what are you going to go do next? What do you want to do? To, well, I'm exploring brands that are bringing sports experiences to life, or I'm exploring media in today's new market through a podcast about sports. I think it takes pressure off the feeling like you have to have a linear path. And it gives you a little confidence boost that you know you're exploring, but you still have to do a little bit of soul searching on what you want to explore.
Right.
I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Go ahead. My bad.
Yeah. No. So just to piggyback off, what you just explained to the listeners, how important is it for student athletes to start building their brand early?
Well, it's a different world than when I was at this life stage, but I think it's very important. And I'd say building a brand is all about the emotional connection you have to people. That's what brand is. Brand is a set of characteristics that are repeated and consistent over time, and it's about building a relationship. So how you operate, are you doing side deals? Are you talking different to people's faces than behind their back? That catches up even in your new life stage of like corporate America. So really thinking about how you're treating people is a part of building your brand. I think people think it's about how you present yourself, which is also true. But if what you present is different than who you are, how you treat people, it doesn't matter what you're presenting.
Wow.
That's big. That's definitely going to be a promo clip. But last question before we get into the fun stuff, about round 21. You had multiple positions for a few different companies in global marketing. A lot of people will hear global marketing and they won't really know what that job entails. So what were some of your daily tasks, or how would you describe what global marketing is to, I guess, someone our age that's looking to get into the industry?
Yeah. So marketing is communicating a message to create an action, right? You communicate Sprite as fizzy, and so you want people to buy it. And so global marketing is making sure that there is a sense of who the brand is, despite what geography it is.
Right.
But then strategies that allow for local understanding.
Gotcha.
Because not every market thinks about sports or wellness or fitness the same way. But everyone should think about the brand the same way relative to how the local culture may be. So long story short, as a global marketer, you're setting the consumer center, the insight, as well as the brand's story. But then you're partnering. It's a ton of relationships with local marketers in region, like in Europe, Amsterdam, Spain, et cetera, translating that brand story into local relevance. So there's definitely a handshake with other marketers in regions to make it come to life.
Gotcha.
Wow.
Gotcha. All right, so let's get into round 21 now. You had a dope setup back there. We mentioned before the paddles, the ping pong table. I love it all. I love it all. So what is round 21, and where did this idea come from?
So round 21, very simply, is bringing creativity to what we play with. Simply put, I see athletes like the two of you, you guys, trying to express who you are through a variety of mediums, a podcast, a sneaker, a hoodie, when what's core to our identity, our sport, remains a blank canvas. But it should say something about what you believe. It should say something about who you are. So I'm merging art that says something about a theme or a societal situation with the things we play with to bring meaning to the player and express something about them. I'm starting with ping pong, which is a little counterculture to what people may think, but it's a very inclusive experience. So I'm starting there.
Yeah. That was Bryce, me being the intern, I should have been able to answer that question for you, bro.
It's a journey.
Yeah. But so that's perfect. You're talking about the ping pong paddles. We had the opportunity to work on together, and just talk about the social justice paddles and bringing that together. How did that experience feel to be able to see your work come to life? On the NBA, one of the biggest platforms of all sports, basically.
Yeah. So, Round 21 is a brand that wants to be a part of culture and in some ways set cultural trends one day. We're just getting started. But what we were witnessing as a society was sports playing a very pivotal role in how people were treating each other, how people were seeing each other. And the NBA had this bubble environment where they were very public about there's ping pong, there's fishing, there's golf. And so they wanted, where possible, to bring the larger macro theme of racial injustice in the spirit of social justice to life everywhere the players spent time, to reinforce and echo what the players' real meaning of the bubble was about. And so we partnered with a few artists. This is one example of 3 paddles that went into the NBA bubble to provide a sense of meaning to this downtime that the guys were sharing that was relevant to social justice. And Brian Bowens, an artist out of Philly, built this solidarity fist to reflect empathy and compassion of all people coming together in this moment of change. And so we thought that would be the NBA, and we thought that would be a perfect representation of the bigger reason for being for this season. And it was beyond incredibly satisfactory to see the emotional power of the symbolism come to life with one of the biggest platforms in all of sport that creates influence. And I hope it's just the beginning.
Definitely. Yeah. I'm sure it will be.
And like pretty much you're just getting started. I mean, so like that's big time. So, you know what I mean? So yeah, like because I never really had the chance, to ask you like how did you take all that in? We were working so hard on trying to do so much research and everything that goes with it. So I know you've probably had some downtime now to just soak it all in and just, see the work basically come to life.
Yeah, there's no downtime, but I think something about the world we live in today, and this isn't meant to give anybody a feeling that they'll never be able to catch up or anything like that, but there is a sense of like you're only as good as your last story. And so what I try to take from that is both the good and the bad are fleeting. If you only think the good is fleeting, then that's just crushing. But if you think that the highs are never as high and the lows are never as low, whether personally or in business, you can actually kind of hit a nice steady cadence of hard work and payoff and hard work and risk and hard work and payoff. So I just kind of took it in stride, even though it's been some time. It's definitely just hopefully one of these types of things that'll continue to happen.
Definitely. Yeah. I definitely think so. And so where do you see Round 21, as a company, in the near future?
In the near future, we're starting a Kickstarter. So I don't know if you guys know what a Kickstarter is, but basically we're mobilizing people who care about art and sport to say this brand needs to have a role in the world. And so Kickstarter, if you search Round 21, you would see the ability to support what we're trying to build. So everything in the next 4 weeks is focused on Round 21's Kickstarter. Midterm and long term, though, what I hope for the brand is that, call it 3 years or so, it will feel odd and awkward to play with something so meaningful to you in sport that doesn't say something about you. Almost like your sneakers, your hood, like when you put it on, it's saying something about your mood that day, you hang out with, what you believe in. I want to be the brand that creates the norm is that my sports equipment says something about me.
I like that. Wow. That's actually, I've never thought of it that way, but you definitely feel it with clothes. It has a certain energy to it. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure that sports equipment will have the same thing in the future. That's dope.
Yep.
Yeah.
So our last question is always, do you have a mantra or a quote that you live by?
Yeah, I mean, can I answer the question a little backwards and then come back to the one you just asked?
Okay. Yeah, sure.
So quotes can be tricky because it's actually someone else's belief you might have heard that you're applying to yourself. And so the idea that what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, I think is a little tiny bit flawed. If you really know who you are, what doesn't kill you could kill you, right? So like if you're in a role, if you're doing something that is counter to your beliefs, that thing making you unhappy is going to keep making you unhappy. It's not making you stronger.
Mm-hmm.
So I encourage people to think about who they are. And if what they're doing is they're grinding, but they love it, that's making them stronger. Or if they're grinding and they're learning, that's making them stronger. But if it's counter to who they are, or what they believe, what's the end goal? So that quote always kind of rubbed me the wrong way. What will kill me makes me stronger. I think depends on who you are.
For sure.
But a favorite quote, you know, oh my gosh, I guess it's not my favorite quote, but a goal is just a dream with a deadline has always been meaningful to me, because I said when I was younger, I'm going to start my own company, and it just kept dragging and dragging and dragging. And I was like, what? No, a goal. Is it really a goal? It's a dream with a deadline. So when are you starting? Okay, I'm going to start at 40 was my deadline. And to me, I got to determine what my goal was. And that was to name the company. It's taking me 4 years to actually get it off the ground.
Right.
Like a goal is a dream with a deadline. So if you're talking a big game and you know you want to be an entrepreneur or a coach, or, you know, be the best lawn mowing company in your district, that's all very awesome work. What are your deadlines to get there? That quote has always stuck with me, except just when I was trying to remember it.
I like that. All right, before we, I do want to talk to our listeners really quickly. You know, some states, the date to register to vote has already passed, but we do want to encourage everyone to not only register to vote, but start to think about your plan and how you're going to do so. Election day is literally next month, so let's do it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Get out there and vote.
Yes.
Out there, but Jasmine, thank you so much for coming on. Best of luck to you and everything that you have coming with Round 21. Our listeners out there, go and check out the Kickstarter. We'll have the link to that in the bio, either on wherever you listen, on YouTube, Spotify, whatever.
Yeah.
But thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thank you.
Amazing. Thank you. The world needs to hear your voices. So I'm so glad that you created this platform.
Yeah. Wait, and any internship, summer, anything?
Yeah, we're gonna start our spring internship February 1st. So applications will go, you know, on round21.com. You'll see the link to internships, but we're gonna take the holiday off with the internship for now.
Okay, we'll be able to put it below too.
That's great. Thank you so much.